mile in fog patches and showers early Friday, but improving to greater than 6 miles on Friday morning.
Stars shining bright above me. Night breezes seem to whisper that you. Sycamore tree, dream a little dreamer.
Dominic "Sonny Black" Napolitano was a captain in the Bonanno crime family. His parents were immigrants from Naples, Italy. He was born with blonde hair, but by his 40s it had turned a gunmetal white-silver color. To hide the embarrassing color, at least to him, he dyed it black, earning him the nickname Sonny Black. His children would later inherit this feature from their father, but their golden blonde hair turned naturally to black over time. He was a close friend of future crime family boss Joe Massino, who would later order his execution, and incarcerated boss Philip Rastelli, who knew Napolitano before he went to prison. He was close to Carmine Napolitano, a cousin and fellow member of the family. He is well known for having allowed FBI agent Donnie Brasco, real name Joseph Pistone, to become an associate in his crew and nearly getting him made. His sons, Peter Napolitano, Aniello Napolitano, and Rocco Napolitano, were born and raised in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Sonny Black told his fellow mobsters and Donnie Brasco all the time how he loved his sons very much, and later on was worried about him and his estranged wife. But Brasco would later say that Sonny cared more for his prized messenger pigeons than his sons. Sonny was a womanizer who cheated with his longtime mistress, Judith Fields. It is unknown who he was married to at the time of his murder. It has been widely reported that Napolitano has a son with Judith Fields named Anthony Muir, who has proven to be elusive when an attempt was made to contact him regarding his relationship with him. Napolitano was a sturdy 5'9" man who weighed about 200 pounds with powerfully developed chest and arms. On his right forearm was a tattoo of a black panther. He was swarthy, with hair dyed jet black. His face was fleshy with rings under his brown eyes that made him look, depending on the mood, either tired or menacing. He was not a heavy drinker and only indulged at times with fine French liquor. He had dead straight hair, a square jaw and a Roman nose. Although he was a stone-cold gangster, he ran his crew in a laid-back style. Napolitano controlled Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and from 1979 to 1980, he operated in Pasco County, Florida, out of Holiday, Florida, after negotiating control of the territory with Santo Trafficante Jr. At that time, Napolitano set his sights on operating a major bookmaking operation in Orlando, which he was never able to do. Napolitano was an avid racing pigeon and homing pigeon enthusiast. He kept his collection of birds on the roof of his apartment and social club The Motion Lounge. The brilliantly colored pigeons had pedigree bloodlines that descended from prize pigeons in France, Germany, and Russia. He once won $3,000 during a race from his pigeons. Napolitano would race his prized messenger pigeons against other mobsters, including Bonanno crime family consigliere Anthony Sparrow, Bonanno associate Murray Kufeld, and Genovese crime family capo Anthony Federici. He hired future Lucchese crime family underboss Anthony Casso to shoot hawks that preyed on his prized pigeons when Casso was a young and ambitious mobster. Sonny Black rose to prominence in 1973 as a soldier for Michael Sabella and was promoted to capo, replacing his mentor after the gangland execution of the powerful rival capo Carmine Galante. Sabella is a close relative of Castellamare's mobster Dominic "Mimi" Sabella and his brother, the early Philadelphia crime family boss Salvatore Sabella. He became a soldier for the Bonanno family, serving under boss Joseph Bonanno in 1957. He was involved in gambling and loan sharking during the 1950s. Before the Bonanno Wars of the 1960s, Sabella had been a soldier first in the crew of fellow Castellamare's member Carmine Galante, and later under Joe Notaro, both top Joe Bonanno loyalists. During the conflict between the Bonannos and Gaspar di Gregorio, Mike initially remained loyal to the Bonanno faction, but eventually the commission convinced him to join di Gregorio's group. As a result, he was rewarded with a promotion to captain of his old crew. Sabella worked closely with Nicholas Maranghello, Galante's underboss, and became a close confidant to his former captain, who by the mid-1970s had become the street boss of the organization. Sabella's crew was among the largest in the family, with interests stretching from Manhattan and New Jersey area down to Florida. After the murder of Carmine Galante in 1979, Sabella and several other Bonanno leaders were demoted as a result of their close association with Galante while he was street boss. He was replaced as captain by his former underling Dominic "Sonny Black" Napolitano. After the assassination of the three captains, Alphonse Indelicato, Dominic Trinchera, and Philip Giacone, Sabella decided to sell his restaurant and remained a low-level figure throughout the 1980s. It is said that he had over $1 million on the street as loan shark money. Sabella was demoted and Napolitano took over the crew. He became a trusted associate of the imprisoned mobster Philip Rastelli, who took over leadership permanently again. But when Rastelli took over, it caused the Bonannos to split into two factions, one loyal to Philip Rastelli, the other attempting to overthrow him in favor of the Sicilian faction, led by Alphonse Indelicato. Was the father-in-law of Bonanno associate Salvatore Valenti and ex-son-in-law of Bonanno captain, bookmaker Charles Ruvolo. Indelicato was particularly fond of a pair of custom-made red leather cowboy boots, which may have been the source of his nickname, Sonny Red. He is a nephew to Salvatore Falcone, a heroin trafficker. Sonny Red was married first to Charles Ruvolo's unidentified daughter, with whom he fathered a son, Anthony Bruno Indelicato. He was indicted in 1972 for the inquiry into the murder of Joe Gallo, but was released. Sonny Black and Joseph Massino, who were loyal to Rastelli, were chiefly responsible for helping to end the struggle by killing three opposed to Rastelli: Alphonse Indelicato, Dominic Trinchera, and Philip Giacone. Sonny Black owned the Withers Italian-American War Veterans Club at 415 Graham Avenue in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and also the Motion Lounge at 420 Graham Avenue. He later ran an illegal casino in Pasco County, Florida, and owned a tennis club and nightclub called the Kings Court Bottle Club in Holiday, Florida. When in Florida, he took up the sport of tennis with Donnie Brasco. He was a doubles partner of Bonanno mobster John Sassani. Although he was a lousy tennis player, he enjoyed playing at King's Court. Brasco/Pistone would later say, on the court he would run around and yell, "I'm going to kill you," between strokes. Napolitano would arm wrestle Pistone, but always lost. Napolitano, who was a weightlifter, constantly challenged Pistone, who was the only guy that Napolitano could not beat. Black's headquarters were in the heart of Williamsburg's Italian neighborhood. His crew, involved in burglary, extortion, robbery, fraud, bank robbery, loan sharking, illegal gambling, gun running, truck and aircraft hijacking, bookmaking, wildlife smuggling, casino operations, and drug trafficking. And his crew were one of the most successful crews in the Bonanno crime family. Napolitano was extraordinarily tough, strong, ruthless, fearless, and savvy. Although he was a stone-cold gangster, he ran his crew in a laid-back style. Pistone would say, Dominic was more observant and disciplined than Michael Sabella, and had a watchful eye. In mob circles, he had an excellent reputation for personal loyalty to his foot soldiers, but he would kill anybody in a heartbeat if they crossed him. He was one of the most toughest and vicious guys that I've ever met in my entire life. He's definitely not a man that you want to piss off. Napolitano always carried an Italian stiletto knife, 2 pistols inside his waistband holsters, and 1 hand grenade in his pocket in case he had to use it, according to former undercover FBI agent Joseph Pistone, or Donnie Brasco. Napolitano owned more than 4,000 hand grenades, and he loved to use them to kill people. Napolitano was a highly skilled marksman with pistols and machine guns, which made him a highly efficient killer. In restaurants or in public, he was a gentleman and never flamboyant or brazen. He always carried his own suitcases when traveling, which was not traditionally done by other capos. Pistone said that Napolitano was a stone-cold gangster, but he was not a 24-hour gangster, meaning that you could talk to him about other things besides the mafia, unlike other mobsters who only wanted to talk about illegal activities and mafia business. When working, Napolitano was highly respected and feared, but when hanging out with Pistone, they would go out to dinner, have coffee, and just shoot the breeze, like 2 friends. When Joseph Pistone infiltrated the mafia, he became attached to the crew that Napolitano ran, and the two developed a close relationship. Napolitano's crew was involved in loan sharking, bookmaking, and several casino operations. They were heavily involved in drug trafficking. Pistone was one of the few people that Napolitano trusted and relied upon. Brasco even spent nights sleeping over at Napolitano's apartment. He regarded Pistone so highly that he planned to nominate him to be made, inducted into the mafia, and began to use the formal introduction, "a friend of ours," a code meaning a made man, when introducing Brasco to other mobsters. Brasco's undercover operation ended after 6 years, when Napolitano ordered him to murder another mobster, originally Philip Giaccone, while he was in Miami, Florida. Later, after the decision was made to murder Giaccone at the same time as Alphonse Indelicato and Dominic Trinchera, Pistone was given the task of murdering Indelicato's son, Bruno. 2 days later, FBI agents came to his home at the Motion Lounge to inform him that Donnie Brasco was an agent of the FBI. In the hours after the shocking disclosure of Donnie Brasco, Napolitano went to his pigeon coop to think. FBI surveillance photos caught a very worried-looking man. Surrounded by pigeons, Napolitano realized that the winged creatures were the only living things he could really trust. Shortly thereafter, the order came down to kill Sonny Black for having allowed such a breach in mafia security. Rather than turn state's evidence and enter the witness protection program, the mobster accepted his fate. Shortly before his death, Napolitano told his girlfriend Judy that he bore no ill will towards Brasco, knowing that he was only doing his job, and that if anyone was going to be responsible for taking him down, he was glad that it was Donnie. On August 17, 1981, he was asked to come to the home of Bonanno associate Ronald Filicomo for a meeting in Flatlands, Brooklyn. Knowing he would be killed, Sonny gave his jewelry to his favorite bartender, who worked below his apartment at the Motion Lounge, along with the keys to his apartment, so that his pet pigeons could be cared for. He was shot to death in Filicomo's basement by Filicomo and Bonanno Captain Frank Lino using .38 revolvers. In August, FBI surveillance agents noticed workmen dismantling his pigeon coops on top of the Motion Lounge. On August 12, 1982, a body was found at South Avenue and Bridge Street in Arlington, Staten Island, New York. The corpse's hands had been severed and the face was so badly decomposed that dental records were required to verify the identity. The FBI officially announced that they had found the corpse of Dominic Napolitano. However, in 2000, the FBI publicly revealed for the first time since 1982 that it had long been doubted whether or not the corpse found on Staten Island was correctly identified. Napolitano's killer, Frank Lino, had turned state's evidence, providing authorities with the details of his murder. Although the FBI were reasonably sure that the body found in Staten Island was Napolitano, one discrepancy existed. While Lino claimed that he and Filicomo had both shot Napolitano with .38 caliber revolvers, and that he himself had fired more than one bullet, the corpse found on Staten Island only had a single bullet wound, which appeared to have been made by a .45 caliber pistol. Dominic "Sonny Black" Napolitano was buried in Calvary Cemetery, Queens. In early 2003, Bonanno boss Joseph Massino was arrested and charged with a variety of crimes, with the case centering around the murder of Napolitano. At Massino's trial, prosecutors claimed that Napolitano was killed by his associates for allowing his crew to become compromised, and that his hands had been removed as a warning to other mobsters to follow the rule about proper introductions, the association of shaking hands with being introduced to someone. Massino was convicted in 2004. Mira worked for Bonanno captain Michael Zaffarano and was involved in extortion, gambling, and drug trafficking. During the 1970s, Mira confessed to the 1959 assassination of Anthony Carfano and comedian Alan Drake's wife, Janice Hanson Drake. Mira never drank alcohol, only ginger ale. He remained a recluse from his fellow mobsters, including his own relatives, which included Richard Cantarella, and eventually even became estranged from his uncle Alfred. Mira was the first contact FBI agent Joseph Pistone made in his undercover operation, which led to his infiltration of the Bonanno family. Pistone was working as an associate for the Colombo family at the time. Mira introduced Pistone to Lefty Ruggiero and offered him a job handling his slot machine route. Ruggiero joined the Bonanno family organization as a young man, serving as a street soldier under Captain Michael Sabella. He soon became successful in bookmaking, extortion, and loan sharking rackets. He lived in an apartment on Monroe Street in Manhattan, in the same building as Anthony Mira. Lefty reportedly owned a cigarette boat that he kept docked on the East River in New York. Ruggiero became good friends with future family boss Philip Rusty Rustelli and Mira himself. Lefty became the part owner of a fishery in the Fulton Fish Market in Manhattan. As a part owner, he put himself on the company payroll with a $5,000 a month no-show job. During the 1970s, he bought a social club in Little Italy for a place fellow mobsters can hang out. Around the time he became a made member in the Bonanno family, Anthony Mira introduced him to Joseph Pistone. Pistone was an undercover FBI agent posing as an expert jewel thief named Donnie Brasco. Brasco's original mission had been to infiltrate truck hijacking and fencing rings. However, the friendships Brasco developed with Mira and Ruggiero allowed the FBI to infiltrate the mafia. Brasco started working for Ruggiero, placing bets and helping him make collections for the bookmaking operation in Lefty's social club. Lefty mentored Brasco and eventually promised to sponsor him for membership in the family. He developed a close friendship with Brasco, which caused friction with his old friend Mira, who had initially introduced Brasco to Lefty. Brasco served as best man at his wedding in 1977 and frequently advised him on handling his son Tommy's heroin addiction. You're watching the Everything Network. In 1977, Mira fled New York after being indicted for drug trafficking. The FBI caught up with him 3 months later, and he was sent to federal prison again for 8.5 years. When Mira got out of jail, Brasco had since become close with Ruggiero and was working under him. Mira argued that Brasco belonged to him, not Ruggiero. Mira took the issue right to the top and had several meetings over the situation. In the end, Ruggiero won. After the sudden death of his captain, Michael Zaffarano, Mira took over the Bonanno family pornography empire and worked under the powerful Sicilian captain Cesare Bonventure. Mira also muscled in on several Little Italy, Manhattan, restaurants and bars. He was involved in a vending machine operation that dealt in slot machines, peanut vending machines, video arcade machines, and pinball machines, that were distributed all over New York City. He had them installed in stores, luncheonettes, social clubs, and after-hours establishments. The slot machines, since they were illegal, would be installed in the establishment's back room or basement. The coin collection route produced $2,000 a week, and he would open the machines with a key he carried and give the store owner his cut of the profits, at least $25. Mira was involved in strong-arm schemes and extorted from several bars and restaurants. Each of the owners would pay him $5,000 a week in protection money, and he would become angry if he did not receive the money. Joseph Pistone said that Mira was the nastiest and most intimidating man he had met during his 7 years undercover. Due to Mira's irrational behavior, nobody could ever build a close relationship with him. He would never talk about anything that did not involve criminal activities. Pistone said that, one day you might ask him, "How's your mother, Tony?" He might say, "Okay." Another day you ask him, and he might answer, "What the uck you so nosy about?" He was known among fellow mobsters as a knife man. It was a common practice for mobsters to carry knives because they were routinely rousted by police officers and did not want to be caught with firearms. Mira carried a folding knife with a long blade. Unlike Mira, it was uncommon for mobsters to ever use their blade, preferring the use of a firearm. Pistone was warned by fellow mobsters that, if you ever get into an argument with him, make sure you stay an arm's length apart, because he will stick you. Although Mira was despised, he was tolerated because he was a remarkably good moneymaker. Mira was a hard worker who was out on the street every day from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., making around $5,000 a day for the family. He once bragged to Pistone that since he had been out of prison, he had made over $200,000. He had a reputation for either cheating people out of money or outright stealing, demanding that goods and services be provided to him, on the arm. He was known to be violent with women, physically abusing his mistresses, and threatening to murder one when she confessed that she was a lesbian. Ruggiero told Pistone that the problem with Mira was that he was always abusing somebody. Mira insulted everybody and was always in arguments. Mira was so loathed by mobsters that when Donnie Brasco was revealed to be an undercover agent, he immediately went into hiding instead of attempting to negotiate for his own life, as he knew that countless mafiosi would be eager to take the opportunity to murder him. In mid-1981, when Pistone was revealed as an FBI agent, Sonny Black Napolitano, Lefty Ruggiero, and Mira were all in the firing line for initially allowing the infiltration. Mira went into hiding. Joseph Massino ordered Mira's uncle, Alfred Embarato, and Mira's two cousins, Richard Cantarella and Joseph D'Amico, to find and kill him. On February 18, 1982, D'Amico lured him to a parking garage in Lower Manhattan. Embarato and Cantarella were waiting in a getaway car. The pair went to the parking garage, climbed into Mira's car, and drove up to a locked security gate. D'Amico later described in a testimony, he took out his key, put it in the box, but he didn't get a chance to turn the box. I shot him at close range several times on the side of his head.